further discuss this topic of community-based flexibility. So we will talk about concepts, the energy community concept, self-consumption, and so on. After that, Professor Anna Wieczorek will actually deep dive, explain a little bit the concept of virtual power plants and what they can mean for energy communities, and what the role energy communities can play in managing the energy system. And then after Anna, Luc and André will present some concrete stories. So what it actually means, community-based flexibility, what it actually can mean for the local level. So they will tell a story what are local citizens dreaming of. So very hands-on experiences from the Netherlands and Belgium. And then to finalize, Dirk van Sintian, president of RescuPU, will discuss the regulation in some specific countries. I will not take too much time anymore. I think Roland, our first speaker, can kick off. I hope you have a very interesting webinar, and we stay tuned. I forgot to mention, if you still have questions after this session, you can definitely reach out to us, and let's keep in touch. Roland, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Well, I'm very glad to present you a few aspects of the new EU regulation on these buzzwords that all of us have heard about in different ways, with different angles, but with always a lot of expectations. So I'm talking about energy communities and collective self-consumption, but I could have mentioned aggregation also and these innovative energy services. And I will try to go to walk you through the regulation and clarify a bit where are the boundaries, clarify concepts, and show a bit our ambition with these. Okay, so I will first have a look at energy communities as it is in the regulation and demonstrate it has been presented by the Commission and the legislator as an organizational concept. And then we'll see how it fits with social and technological innovation that have been enhanced also in the same regulation. I will try to monitor my time, but I would highly encourage Sarah to tell me if I'm going beyond time.
I will notify you in time.
Okay, so let's have a look at energy communities. Just first, when we're talking about the clean energy package, it's good to remember that it's a set of legislations. Here we're talking, sorry, I'm just moving a little bit the pop-up. We're talking about 8 pieces of regulation. The ones that are relevant for energy communities are mostly the Electricity Directive and the Renewable Directive. That's where you have the 2 key concepts. And to a lesser extent, the electricity regulation and the governance regulation. Also, so we have renewable energy communities, citizens energy communities. Why do we have 2 definitions? There's also a context that is probably European there. It's the legal perimeter of these 2 directives that are concerned. The Electricity Directive, as the name indicates, is about electricity. So it includes all activities related to electricity, but then this legislation is not relevant for gas, biomass, or other sources of heat. So this will apply also to the concept of citizens energy communities. In parallel, the renewable energy communities comes from the RED directive, the Renewable Energy Directive. So it includes everything that is related to renewables, including biomass, biogas, renewable sources of heat, but then it will exclude any non-renewable energy, right? For the transposition, it's coming very soon. The Electricity Directive should be transposed by the end of this year. The Renewable Energy Directive has 6 more months. Well, Dirk will tell us a little bit more about some deadlines if countries will be able to respect these or not. But we are now getting into the really close to these deadlines. Okay, now these are the definition. It was important for me to show you what is in the regulation. I will not walk you through the whole definition in details, but for me it's important that you see that there are key criteria that defined an energy community, and that the list of activities they are able to perform is listed as an open list. They may engage in a series of activities or provide other energy services. So this is kept open in terms of what they can do. In parallel with the REC directive, you can see similar criteria, some additional ones. The list of activities is not in the definition, it's later in the core of the text. Here you have a more restricted list of activities. So REC are more related to, properly speaking, energy activities related to some energy markets. But still the list remains quite open, with the ultimate mention being access all suitable energy markets. Okay, so if you look at all these, you see these different criteria. They are all functional criteria. It's about open participation, effective control, the objectives of the organization. So it is about the how energy activities are being performed. It's not about the what. We are not into specific activities. It has not to do with collective self-consumption, local aggregation, microgrid, or any of these specific concepts. The term encompasses any activities that is relevant still in the respective legislation. Okay, so looking at the difference between these two, here are the lists of criteria for each of these concepts. The citizens energy communities and renewable energy communities share most of their criteria. They should be both legal entities based on open and voluntary participation. Members or shareholders should have effective control. These members should be natural persons, local authorities, or small enterprises. This differs a little bit from one concept to the other. You have SMEs on one side and small enterprises on the other, which means that I think a little bit bigger companies can participate into renewable communities. And finally, the primary purpose of such entities should be environmental, economic, or social community benefits. On the top of this, the renewable communities have some additional criteria. They should be autonomous, criteria that was not taken back in the citizens energy communities, and they should be located in the proximity of the energy projects they are developing. So also complementary to this, once it's clear these two concepts are parallel, that they are defined in two different legislation, but they are broadly overlapping, that they are mainly organizational concepts. Well, as also part of the Federation of European Cooperatives, it is important for me to demonstrate how cooperatives are already energy communities. If you look at the principles I've highlighted already on the right end, so it includes autonomy from the REC definition, but not proximity. You can see that on the left side, you have the cooperative principles that we respect and ask our members to respect. They are listed within the website of the International Cooperative Alliance. You can have a look if you want more details. So most aspects of the citizens energy communities, if not all, find an answer or a mirroring concept in the cooperative definition. Open and voluntary participation is one of cooperative principles. Democratic member control can be compared with effective control. Autonomy and independence is also one of the cooperative principles, and concern for community can be mirrored with concern for economic, social, or environmental benefits. Okay. So if you look again, once these things are clear, the way you can understand these different concepts complementarily to the other innovative activities or innovative concepts, sorry, that have been mentioned in the two directives, like active consumers, what we all know as prosumers in day-to-day basis, or renewable energy self-consumers. These are individual concepts. The clean energy package opened the door to these consumers acting jointly and give them the right to do so and give them proportionate rights and costs for this. So the legislation opens the door to collective of consumers, and then CECs and RECs open the door for communities to further organize and to have a stricter governance around their activities, respecting all the 4 or 6 criteria that I've listed for both communities. So you can really see the progression from individual concepts, the prosumers, self-consumption, or collective self-consumption with jointly active energy self-consumers, and then energy communities, right? The recital 44 of the Electricity Directive clearly says that energy communities are for local actors. I would just read it. Citizen energy communities are considered to be a category of cooperation of citizen or local actors that should be subject to recognition and protection under union law. The provision on city energy communities do not preclude the existence of other initiatives, such as those stemming from private law agreements. Okay, so it's not because you have energy communities on one side that you cannot perform a gathering of renewable self-prosumers under conventional commercial agreement and arrangement. So in our view, transposition must prioritize citizens, local authorities, and small businesses because they are the one being addressed by the concept. And supportive frameworks for industry, energy companies, all the people that have energy as a core professional activities should be treated separately. This concept are for citizens and non-experts initiatives, really local actors.
Roland, okay. You have two more minutes.
Okay, good. So I need to hurry up. Policy foundations, well, Dirk will tell more about this, but the CEP really, the clean energy package really represents a strong policy foundations with acknowledgement of the concept and really strong support proposal that should be implemented by the member states. Technological innovation, here I've listed, so sorry, I've jumping to the second part of the presentation, a bit in a rush. As I said, you have the organization and governance that are part of the CEC concept and the list of activities each and the other can do. They are broadly overlapping. CR will encompass heating activities. CEC can encompass community network, though it's very limited. To a broad extent, these two activities would overlap. But the CEP is encouraging social and technological innovation. So it's opening up opportunities for new activities, the right to engage into joint self-consumption, including for energy communities, the right to engage in peer-to-peer energy trading, the right to share energy, And if member states allow it, you have the possibility for communities to set up community grids, community networks, sorry, which means microgrids or becoming a DSO basically. So all this is open to communities as well as any other market actor. Also, they are making the business case for these energy communities. They have the right to access all markets, should be remunerated at least at market value when performing electricity generation activities. And when determining the contribution to cost, the value of active customers and energy communities should be acknowledged also in the regulation. So these are important framing considerations. This is just an illustration of flexibility services that we're performing in FlexScope. And all of these are very relevant for energy communities. As any other market actors, energy communities are also very enthusiastic and excited about the perspective of enabling renewable consumption and sustainable consumption of energy through innovative services. So all these innovative business models are very promising for us, and we should not close the door to them. So I will just finish with a couple of recommendations from regarding joint self-consumption or collective self-consumption and flexibility. The renewable directives comments that member states should ensure that renewable self-consumer are able to engage jointly in activities which includes generation, storage, and sale of electricity, and that they are able to also perform energy sharing. So for us, member states should provide flexibility so that energy communities have the option to engage in one or the other of these activities. And that this is a way by keeping the community option and the commercial option to allow different business models. Also, regardless of whether a legal entity is required or not, we recommend that the possibility is given for citizens to engage into collective self-consumption through a legal entity that qualifies as REC or CEC. So really that should be taken into account in the definition of these two communities. Flexibility now. Specific case of distribution grid, though it's very limited opportunity right now, it's a promising one, especially for local communities. So for CEC and RECs implemented really at local level. So DSOs should provide the specifications for procuring such services for supporting their activities. It's important to ensure that CECs and RECs are able to participate in such markets, and that these markets take into account the ability of energy communities to meet the standards. So the DSO or the regulator may also provide assistance or capacity building to energy communities if they want them to actively contribute to the stability of the system. And last, within the standards and procedures for such schemes, it is important that the rules are clear, transparent, and simple, so the dialogue can be established and the services can be performed by the energy communities. Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Roland, for your information. We will make the presentations and the recording available. So if you missed parts of Roland's presentation, you can have a look afterwards. Thank you, Roland, for this very interesting presentation, already explaining some of the concepts from the Clean Energy Package and also the opportunities that gives to energy communities. So now I would like to ask Professor Wieczorek to share her presentation with us. Anna, go ahead.
Stop sharing, yes, sorry.
Okay.
And I give you the,
voila.
The floor.
Very good. Okay. Yes, so am I well seen, and is the PowerPoint seen?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, Anna, go ahead.
Okay, good. Good morning to everyone. My name is Anna Wieczorek. I'm with School of Innovation Sciences at the Eindhoven University of Technology. I'm a scholar. I study large-scale social-technical transitions, especially in the energy field. But I also have a great pleasure of being a project leader of the community-based virtual power plant with all the partners that you can see here on this slide, and also funded by the Interreg Northwest Europe program. In this presentation, I would like to discuss with you the role of energy companies in a decentralized energy system, specifically from the flexibility services perspective. I would like to touch upon 5 elements. First of all, argue that energy system is already in transition, and VPP or CVPP can serve as a sort of accelerator of this process. Then I would like to discuss the possible roles that communities could play in this decentralized, in the decentralized system, and then focus a little bit on flexibility services and their implications for communities. Now, we talk about energy transition. It's very important to understand and clarify what we mean by that. The way how we look at it, it's a social-technical change of the system through which we provide our energy needs. It is not happening easily. This system is heavily stabilized on a number of dimensions, so substituting technology will not do. You also have to change politics, policy, markets, users. All these aspects are stabilizing this system, and they can disentangle. This system can destabilize under specific conditions when sort of broad context type of development. You can think of a COVID, digitalization processes. They can put pressure on the current system. And if there is availability of alternatives, then we can hope that there will be a change of a system towards a new constituency. And in the case of energy system, we talk about more democratized, more decentralized, more digitalized, decarbonized type of energy system. So I would like to emphasize that transition of energy system is about different way of organizing this energy system. And one could say that the progress was so far rather slow, and that's right, because we have paid a lot of attention to technological innovations. We focused on product and process innovations. There is still a great dominance of the established large companies, and the community energy initiatives that are really mushrooming, they still miss the critical mass. So there is still for them not much incentives to play on the market. And a virtual power plant could serve as a potential accelerator. When you think about how energy has been produced and distributed so for a very long time, then it was based on fossil fuel, very centralized type of production. The electricity has been sent through transmission and distribution network to our homes. But I guess the picture as it is now, because the system is already changing, is a little bit like that. So we have sort of bidirectional flows, increasing inflow of renewable sources, both on the prosumer side, but also on the power plant side. And that you can imagine, because of this intermittent character of these renewables, that causes a lot of problems in the grid. Electricity is such a medium that has to be matched in the real time, so that this inflow of renewable energy is causing different problems in the system. You can think about lack of balance or congestion issues in the grid. So grid operators were sort of thinking about how to deal with this problem. And one way, of course, is to put more cables in the ground to improve infrastructure. But the other way is to aggregate distributed energy production through a sort of a virtual power plant. And that's what has been done already a lot. So the virtual power plant is nothing really new. It's a software-based solution. You can think of a ICT platform, which is aggregating all these distributed energy resources. So distributed generation, demand response, and storage. And because it brings all these elements together, it acts like a single entity. So we can compare it to a conventional power plant, and that's why we call it a power plant, but it is a virtual power plant. And thanks to this type of technology, you can think of new roles in the electricity system, not only consumption and production, but also management and trading. Now, when you look at what's happening around, and this is from a couple of years ago when we were starting the project, we wanted to see if there are many of these type of VPP initiatives, and indeed there are quite many, but they are mainly sort of initiated by grid operators, research centers for curiosity reasons, with a very specific technical aim to deal with these grid problems. The ownership of the assets was mixed. Usually PVs on the roofs were belonging to people, but then the ICT solution was provided by the TSO or DSO, and prosumers were very selectively recompensated, but they did not really have a lot to say how their energy is being traded, at what price, at which intervals, you know, so they did not really have much decisive power. And the community needs really were very assumed, very economic and rather individual focus. And when you think about these communities and energy initiatives, they don't think in the first place about dealing with the technical issues with the grid. They are mostly driven ideologically. They want to contribute to the energy transition. They want to maybe have some self-consumption, maybe lower energy bill, but they don't think about these big things. But they would like to be empowered, you know, so is it possible to have a virtual power plant which not only serves the system at large, but also the community? And this is what we have undertaken in this Interreg Northwest Europe project on community-based virtual power plant. We were trying to think, can we flip this logic? Can we think and conceptualize and test a virtual power plant which is serving the community? And to position CVPP on a bigger picture, then you can think about how it has evolved so far. There are quite many passive consumers who only consume energy at the individual level, increasingly many prosumers who are also producing energy. And if you get together, then you have an energy community. But there are increasingly many smart prosumers because we purchase electric vehicles, we have heat pumps, we have storage at homes. And if we aggregate it, make use of this ICT technology, then we can create a community-based virtual power plant and really participate also in the management of the energy system. So what exactly is this community-based virtual power plant? It's a truly socio-technical innovation. And when we were thinking about how to conceptualize it, three things became very important. So first of all is this technology, virtual power plant, but that I have already explained. But then we had to clarify also what we mean by community. And we also felt that the context plays increasingly important role because it makes some things possible and the other less possible. So discussing the community aspect, people were asking us and we were thinking ourselves whether two people is making a community. Do we have to live in the same street to create a community? And as much as scale matters for CVPP or an energy community, it's not about a number. Community is about decision making and who is deciding about how things are organized. So in this project, we, together with Luc van Summeren, he has done a majority of work. He has reviewed the literature just to find out what does it mean to for a project to be community driven. And that he's identified 7 points on the community logic. And one of the most important is that the project is driven by the community needs and motivation. So that's not about setting wind farms by others without meaningful participation of the people. It's about people taking, co-deciding about how things are done in their close vicinity. And the community also has to organize themselves. They have to decide how they operate together, how they engage people, how they include those who are excluded, for example, how they organize the ownership. So this is, again, a project is becoming a community driven when it is being decided by the community. So in our work, we have had to define this community-based virtual power plant, and we realized that there are so many communities and they are doing similar things, but they have different assets and they have different needs and motivations. So we came up with this very broad definition of a community. You need a community, but it doesn't matter if it's a community of place or an interest. The regulation, as Roland has explained, will make a difference as we go on. They have to operate on the community logic, and they also have to have certain assets, but different communities have different decision making, and they also have different assets. Some have only distributed generation, some have additionally controllable load, some have also storage, which is nice. And then once this aspect is clarified, they can think about, how do we make this, how do we connect it in a way that we want for our community? So then you come with this technological element, the ICT platform, which allows you to do what the community wants and allows you to also perform certain roles in the system. So in this project, we have set up we use this generic design and we have tested it actually in 3 contexts. And you will hear a story today from André on the rural CVPP and from Luc on the social. So I'm not going into that, but I would like to go into the roles. One thing I want to say that CVPP seems like a win-win solution for both the communities and for the system at large, but things are not so easy. And that gets me to these roles, because in the current system, we don't have terribly much space. There are limited opportunities, fixed prices, and individual benefit mainly. But in the future energy system, we hope that the regulation will be set in such a way that prosumers will be given more space, and especially community prosumers will be given more space. So still in the future market, prosumers pay to TSO or grid operators and the suppliers for the energy and transport, but the costs and pricing are flexibilized, they are intelligent, and they allow prosumers to play a way more active role in this intelligent market. And they can play a role by producing renewable energy and discharging it to the grid, but they can also offer flexibility, because this flexibility is sort of available in the batteries, in the heat pumps and the electric vehicles. And this flexibility can be made useful to others, internally in the community, but also externally. And this picture shows, is an outcome of our work with the Youssef Foundation. It shows the flexibility value chain, and here is this external, this explicit value chain, where prosumers, individual or communities can aggregate flexibility and make it available to aggregator, who then is selling the flexibility to DSO for congestion management. It can also sell it to TSO for balancing of the grid, and also to the BRP for scheduling the, for them optimizing energy portfolio. So this is the external or explicit value chain, flexibility chain, but there's also implicit value chain. And in the intelligent market, when the prices are flexibilized, prosumers can install boxes, smart boxes in their houses, and they can schedule the operation of their assets in such a way that they can internally make use of this flexibility, or they can make it available to the aggregator. And of course, they can do it with the help of ESCO. Then they play a role of an ESCO if they have the sort of enough skills, but they can also do it themselves.
Hi, Anna.
So
can you wrap up in a couple of minutes?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this way, they can play different roles. They can be facilitators. They can work themselves, for example, how they collectively purchase the various assets. They can play a role of an aggregator. In case of supplying to themselves, they can also play a role of a supplier, or if there is a grid part of their territory, that they can also play a role of a DSO. So depending on the conditions, they can play different roles. And this brings me to the flexibility services, because as much as flexibility is very well defined in the literature, flexibility services are not. So with the support of my student, he has made a huge job of defining flexibility services and also identifying specific types of flexibilities. And I think those that are most interesting in the context of this webinar are the flexibility services at the individual and the community level. And this is the three most important: time of use, peak shaving, and community and self-balancing, both at the individual or community level. Very nice job that he has also done is he has looked at how this context, how these Dutch regulations, he looked through many, how they mention flexibility and flexibility services. And in many cases, they don't do it in a very explicit way, but they do not exclude it, like the Electricity Act, the ACM codes. They also very indirectly, by giving incentive to TSO to deal with the flexibility, they mention it, but not in a very specific way. But the National Climate Agreement is talking about liberalization of flexibility market, using deciding about the standards. We also have a set of tax incentives, which to some extent make space for flexibility, but also make it a bit less interesting, because one of those tax incentives is net metering we have in the Netherlands. But that means that people use the grid as an unlimited battery. So financially speaking, there is not terribly much incentives, but of course, communities may want to do it for different reasons. And then we have the clean energy package for all, which Roland has discussed. And specifically, there are quite many sort of possibilities for communities to play in the flexibility market. However, as much as it's so beautiful, everything is about how things will be done. So when you look at, in the Dutch context, when you look at how exactly these flexibility services can be operationalized now, many things are still not possible. So time of use is not possible because the tariff is fixed. The same is about peak shaving. Then self-balancing is possible, but because of this net metering, there is not much financial incentive. You can do it for other reasons. And specifically at the community level, time of use is possible because communities can negotiate the price with the retailers. The peak shaving is possible, but in this case, communities have to be considered by the DSO as single connection point, which makes the microgrid. So for CVPP type of developments, it's not possible. And then self-balancing, exactly the same story with net metering. So everything is about, even though there's so much space, everything is about how we will translate these laws and how it will be operationalized. And I would like to close by saying that these community-based virtual power plant or any other energy initiatives, they operate on a totally different logic. They have different value proposition, different customer relations. Very often their key resources are rather poor. But so this is a sort of a nice to have business model. I don't have the time to go into this, but they are forced right now to operate in a system defined by the incumbency. So they have to operate with bulk, with big volumes. They have to show high liquidity to the banks to get loans. So there are a number of opportunities. However, the picture is a sort of mixed bittersweet, but I think it's more sweet right now than it is bitter. From our theories, we know that we are in the moment of sort of turmoil. And these moments of turmoil allow people to negotiate their new position. I would say that we should move away from saying that we don't know how this is defined. We don't know how this is operationalized, what the rules are for that. I think we should take this opportunity and say how we think things should be done and how the law should be translated, and lobby for this instead of waiting for others, because that gives us then a better position in the whole market. Well, with this, I would like to thank you for listening, and I give over to Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Anna, for your contribution. Very interesting, and also happy to hear that you are looking at it from a bright side, seeing a lot of opportunities. Speaking of, now we will hear some concrete stories from two energy communities in Belgium and in the Netherlands. So very interested to hear what all of this means for the local level. So Luc Meskes from Energent will start with his presentation. Go ahead, Luc.
Yeah. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, but it's it's not in full presentation mode.
No? On my screen it is.
But I think it's fine. We can see your next frame already. Go ahead, Luc.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Luc Meskes, I'm coordinator of Energent, and I want to share our experience with CVPP. We've been experimenting with in Ghent, and which we are trying to build and implement by the projects we're working in. Shortly, Energent is a RESCOP founded in 2013. We're active. We start in Ghent, but we're active in East, the province of East Flanders in Belgium. We're organizing all kinds of investments in solar, wind, and heat, but we also are organizing all kinds of energy services towards our clients. Also involved in several innovation projects such as CVPP, RESCOP VPP, projects about hybrid heat pumps, energy storage. We actually have 1,200 cooperants and about 2,600 clients served up till today. The origin of our project actually was in a certain neighborhood of Ghent. Some people, they actively were dreaming how to increase solar production in their neighborhood, but also how they would be able to keep this energy in their neighborhood, in their districts. And they were dreaming of a district battery. And this idea was picked up and the project Buurzame Stroom was initiated. And this was coordinated by Energent together with the city of Ghent. We also involved the DSO and the University of Ghent, but also, for example, Samenlevingsopbouw. Because what were the goals of the project Duurzame Stroom was, first of all, to increase the solar production in the neighborhood, but also to reach all kind of target groups. We really wanted to put attention to socioeconomic vulnerable groups, people with migrant background, etc., to include them in this process to see how far could we get. And the third goal was to investigate solutions for the electricity grid of the future, smart grid storage, balancing, etc. To give an idea of the project area, it's really an urban area. It's behind Dampoort Station for people who know Ghent. And the characteristics are it's quite densely populated. We have a big mixture of population over there. It's socio-vulnerable residents. We have residents with migration background. We also have young, well-educated families in the district. We have renovated houses, old houses, house owners, tenants. We also have a huge heritage site here, the blue color, in the middle of the neighborhood, which also needs specific attention. There are some SMEs, some public buildings and school, no large industry. And initially the red limit, it was defined by the DSO, the center of the project area. We defined it and limited by 5 medium voltage transfer stations. So we limited to work on this low voltage grid. The project kicked off in March 2018 with quite a lot of people interested to join the project and motivated to work with us. And the first step was to work with the people in a participatory way to determine a little bit their values. What did they find important? So we organized an online inquiry with focus group discussion. And the conclusion was a little bit, that starting from the dream, they wanted to stimulate more and organize more renewable energy sources in their neighborhood to make it more CO2 neutral. They wanted to create a community to battle climate change more effectively. They thought if we do it as a community, we reach more than if we do it each on our own. To get more control on the energy market and to minimize the cost for society in the future energy transition. Here we enter already in some results of the project. So the Duurzame Stroom project itself, it ran for 2 years. It was concluded beginning of this year. So what did we reach? We reached doubling the amount of solar PV in the area, where we took a lot of actors into a project, for example, we organized PV on schools. We organized PV on about 100 people put PV on their own roof. They invested themselves through the mediation of the project. We have some PV on apartments. We also reached to have PV on some renters' roofs and also on 8 SMEs. Here the project concluded or listed about 40 recommendations towards local and regional governments suggestions we wanted to give them to change legislation in order to increase the potential of solar productions in a settlement where we were working in. So we bumped against a lot of legislative, financial, and social limits to get better results. We really put a lot of effort in reaching all kind of target groups and all kind of people and house situations to see what we could do. And yeah, all this inquiry and investigation was put into a report, and out of that report, the recommendations were formulated. This gives a little bit an idea of the realizations. The different dots represent realizations of the project. I here just want to put some attention to the yellow dots. These are 2 clusters where we installed, besides PV installation, we also installed home batteries. Here I want to come back on it in the following slides. So the following objectives were, besides increasing the production, the solar production, and reaching a lot of target groups. The other objective was to organize a smart way how to deal with this renewable energy production. So we try to find electrical assets who could absorb this production, and with whom we could organize flexibility in the market at the residential level. We were looking for electric vehicles, which were hardly present in this area. We're looking for heat pumps. They also were hardly present at the start of the project. So we decided, okay, we will organize some battery storage. And as the people, they were initially dreaming of a neighborhood battery, we were investigating whether we could not organize this in the neighborhood, or at least at the street level. But there as well, we bumped against a lot of mostly technical and juridical problems, so we were not able to organize it. So finally, we decided to install 16 home batteries, but concentrated in 2 streets, where we were sure that they were all connected to the same feeder line of the DSO grid. We had 1 battery at SME level. And we also, in the meantime, organized 2 pilots with thermal storage through hybrid heat pumps to organize flexibility.
Luc, just to make you aware of the fact that you still have 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. This flexibility, okay, we have production, we have storage, then you need an energy management system to start playing with it, to organize automated demand-side management. So we talked to a lot of market players who are involved in this, and we defined for ourselves that we wanted to have as much as possible open source architecture with a low-cost hardware, in order to have the flexibility to modify the EMS system, because legislation is not clear yet, economics are not clear, the user case, the business model is not clear, and needs to be modified the coming years. So we didn't want to get into a lock-in with one certain vendor. So we ended up working together with the University of Ghent and Energie ID, who organized an open source EMS system for us, and with whom we continue to work further on in the development of the CVPP project, also in the RESCO VPP project. So it's a Raspberry Pi. That's the basics of the local control, who is communicating with the assets in the house, and is communicating to the cloud, to the EMS system. Even if the connection is not present, the local control is actually continuing the control of the assets. We organize some dashboards, some visualizations for the participants, so they can see what's happening, to make them aware, to see as well which steering controls are taking place. This was a dashboard of the hybrid heat pump. Here you have a dashboard of the people with their own home storage. I won't go into detail. People will receive the presentation afterwards and can have a look to it. Here also more detail, where people see which steering controls are active, and which things are taking place. We also organize the dashboard at the level of Energent, at the level of the clusters, aggregated data and aggregated data of all the clusters together. And here we had just a short example of what we did. Here in the middle graph, you have the aggregation of the PV production at a certain day of all the participants. And normally the batteries from the moment that here below, here above, you have the grid interaction. So you see the PV starts producing here, and here you see that the energy starts to get injected in the grid. Normally at this moment, the batteries would start charging. So what we did, we wanted to have to organize peak shaving in order to reduce the effect of the total injection of the PV production on the grid. So we really wanted to have this peak, the peak of the PV production. We wanted to have this to be stored in the battery. So we blocked the battery, and you see here from this moment, the battery starts charging. You see it here below. This is the charging of the battery. In order to reduce the effect of the total PV peak on the grid. So you see here clearly that this is a reduced impact on the grid, reduced injection. Even at the peak itself, there is no injection on the grid. And this was organized by the EMS we've been setting up. What has been the role of Energent, and how do we look to the future role of Energent? We're an organization, we're a RESCOP, and we will organize renewable energy communities. We will try to, in the future, organize a Zonnedeel and solar sharing if legislation permits it on a feasible way. We will improve our energy services for our customers. Looking into increased auto consumption of residential PV installations. We can also organize flexibility at residential level and aggregate it towards existing and future flexibility markets, as they're looking into organizing flexibility market at the low voltage grid level in Flanders now. And we will, of course, support communities in getting more control on the energy market at the local level, and try to involve the social vulnerable groups in the energy transition, which is one of the objectives of Energent as a RESCOP.
Luc, can you wrap up in 1 minute?
Yeah. The following slides are actually just graphs of results of technical tests we did. People can have a look in detail when we share the presentation. So this is flexibility organized by the thermal storage of the hybrid heat pump. This is the explanation of the peak shaving we organized with our batteries, which was tested, and we concluded. Okay, some results of the effect of the peak shaving on the grid. Maybe one last thing I will explain is voltage control. So this was the reason why we organized the batteries in clusters in one street, being sure that they were connected to one grid feeder. What is happening at the moment that a lot of PV energy is injected in the grid, the tension of the feeder might rise. And if it reaches 250 volts in Belgium, then the inverter is disconnected. You don't have any production anymore. This appears mainly for people who are further away from the medium voltage transfo. So what did we do? We developed a management system that we will send set points to all the inverters connected to the same feeder at the moment that that voltage starts increasing up to 245, 248 volts. Then we start changing the active reactive set point in the inverter to reduce a little bit the production of all the inverters in order to control the voltage below the 250 volts of the feeder. And as a consequence, no production units, no inverters are disconnected the grid. So this is active voltage control of the feeder by the EMS system that has been developed in this project. And then the last one was the virtual neighborhood battery, where we can steer all the batteries together on a virtual way to use them as one single battery, which also in the future might be able to be presented or used as ancillary services. Okay, future developments, I won't go into detail. It's a little bit in short what we've been doing up till now and the future plans that we will work on the next coming years, depending of the project and the legislation, how they will evolve. Okay, thank you very much, and I give the word now to André.
Thank you, Luc, for your contribution. And now we're moving from Belgium again to the Netherlands. People from the energy community in Loenen will now share some insights. André, can you take over?
I am trying to, but my computer is giving me some problems. Yeah, okay.
We can already see you.
Yeah, okay. He was giving me some issues. I'll try to share my screen here.
Voila. Now put it on presentation mode, and I think we're good to go.
You can see it now?
Yes, go ahead, André.
Okay. Yeah, my name is André Suijsink. I live in the village of Loenen in the Netherlands. I have a long history in electricity business. I've been working there for 30 years at KEMA in the Netherlands. We will be doing and I'm currently, of course, involved in the CVPP project, the Loenen part of it. We're doing a duo presentation. I will do first, as this is a social technical innovation, I will do first the community part of it, and then Jasper Kroondek from Kirion will take over. Kirion is, let's say, the engineering part of the DSO, the local DSO, Leander, who is the manager of the grid of around Loenen and a big part of Holland. So first, I will bring back to memory what the CVPP concept is about. You saw the slides already from Anna, but I will go quickly through them. Then say something about Loenen community, the community, or basically the design process for the CVPP Loenen. And then Jasper will take over what was actually implemented in Loenen. And maybe there's some time for questions or discussion, but of course the chat is available for that as well. So you saw this slide before. Some time ago, we were all just passive consumers. We were at the end of a electricity cable, and we just paid the bills, and that was it. And with the advent of PV, we started to become, or at least some of us started to become prosumers. And what you saw develop was that on the one hand, people start to organize themselves and do joint projects, raise wind turbines or large PV fields, or all kinds of cooperation in the field of electricity. And at the same time, you also saw other people go more in the direction of using ICT to the maximum and do a sort of optimized home system, being very smart with their energy usage. And basically the CVP, is a sort of a combination of the cooperation part of it and the ICT application part of it. This slide you also saw from Anna. It used to be quite easy, a one-way system where supply and demand was always in balance, and that is of course very important for the electricity system. I always say electricity is a flexible product in the sense that you can do a lot of different things with it, light, power, heating, but it's not flexible in the sense that the supply and demand always need to be in balance, and the frequency needs to be controlled very tightly. And with this changing system, that becomes more and more of a challenge. And we hope that the CVP concept, the balancing is an issue, but also frequency control, voltage control, all these kinds of things get more and more under pressure. And we hope that this virtual power plant can help stabilize that. And it's not in order to just help the energy companies. I think it's very important for every one of us, because the better we get this under control, the cheaper the energy transition can become. We all know it's going to cost a lot of money, but we should avoid making it even more costly than necessary. And energy management can, I think, help with that. The project is, we just saw the Belgian contribution, but the project is in 3 countries actually. You see here the Northwest Europe region. It's the whole of UK, part of the Netherlands, whole of Belgium, Luxembourg, part of France, and a part of Germany. And in this project, there are actually 3 CVPPs with different contexts, different cultures, different technologies. In Ireland, we see a lot of wind, and only now we see more PV. In the Netherlands, it's more PV, and I think that's also true for Belgium. So you get different designs out of these different contexts. Yeah. Now about Loenen, it's a small village at the edge of the Veluwe, which is a bit of a high area in the Netherlands, close to the German border. It's rural, a lot of green character. It's to some extent touristic, but also has some heavy industry like paper mill industry. 3,000 people, approximately 1,300 households. And I think one of the things you can say about Loenen is that it's a well-organized village. People really know how to find each other, and that's true on many levels, on sporting, on music, but also on energy. So we have a very organized village council. We have a Loenen Energie Neutraal, which is a revolving fund that helps people invest in energy transition with PV and with insulation projects and heat pumps, things like that. We have the organization which is sort of now involved in the project is Duurzame Projecten Loenen. It's called Sustainable Project Loenen. That is running the CVPP project. As part of the project, we also now have an energy cooperative, because the EMS needs to sort of land somewhere, and somebody needs to own it at the end of the day. And we have also been very active in raising more and more PV in the village. And we are also a village that is looking at the way, what would be the best way for the Netherlands, or at least for our village, to stop using natural gas as a main heating source, because that is sort of 99% of the heating in the Netherlands. So how did we get into this project? It was not that we sort of woke up one morning and decided to do a CVP project. About 7 years ago, the whole energy transition really kicked off in Loenen by winning a 200,000 euro prize. And we started the revolving fund with that. So a lot of people started investing in PV and in insulation and things like that. Then in 2015, we asked the kids from the primary schools to make an inventory of how many roofs we have available in the village to put PV on. And it turned out to be well over 100% of the household demand for electricity. So sort of a new challenge was born, and we said, okay, let's make sure that we get as much as possible PV put on all these roofs. But we have to be aware that then we have an issue with supply and demand, because in the summer we have way too much, and in the winter we have still not enough. So based on that, sort of the CVPP project started growing. Yeah, then of course you build a consortium and start working on the project. It really kicked off in 2018 to start working on the CVPP project. In 2019, we started with our energy cooperative as part of the CVPP project. And in 2020, we, for example, we built a 100% participatively financed solar roof of 1 megawatt, which sort of added another 20% of the household demand of being produced locally. In 2020, we also won an award called the European Sustainable Energy Award for well, basically for the whole project. So why did we do it? As I said, we did a lot of investment in Lunen. In the Netherlands, we have a system where it doesn't matter when you produce and when you use. It's called the salderingsregeling. It means if you produce during the day and use it during the night, you can sort of trade those off at the same price. So there's no net effect. But the government has said that will not continue. In future, if you produce too much during the daytime, you will get less money, and then in the evening, if you use it, you have to pay more money. So the PV becomes less financially attractive. Yeah, we said, okay, but if we are increasing more and more with PV, this is an issue that will become more and more challenging. And I think it was demonstrated a bit already by the Corona, because at the beginning of the year, due to Corona, the demand collapsed. There was far less demand for electricity, and almost immediately the negative energy prices started peaking. So the whole system gets at least financially under pressure. Now it's called the CVPP, community-based virtual power plant, and basically what we said, we have to really take care that it's really a bottom-up process, so not designed by the large energy companies or by the DSO, but really by the people. And for that, we said, okay, we need to find a process to basically involve people and make clear what they want, how they feel that the energy system of the future should look like. And we had really very nice workshops about that. But at the same time, you also create a bit of a problem, because you get a lot of individual wishes and opinions. But the end result still needs to be a compromise of many. But I think we did a good job on that. And we said, okay, the shared values and interests are leading for that. So we had workshops, but we also had a a questionnaire, so that people could individually say what they found was important. And at this point, I would like to give the word to Jasper, because I think you were going to take over from here, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, André.
And
Hello,
Jasper,
everybody.
just for your information, you have around 7 minutes for your contribution.
All right. Then I will skip through some slides in order to still be able to explain the most important stuff. What is very important, as André told us, is the community engagement and ownership within Luna. So therefore, we came up with the following structure that you can see here on the slide. And what was very important is that the community was very engaged and had a say in how the CVPP in Luna would be developed. And we did that through a workshop and an individual questionnaire where people could choose what values do I find most important. And there you would see, as we Dutch would say, the FIETS values, which stand for financial gains, for institutional gains, for environmental purposes, for technical purposes, or that you would like to be included in this project because of social reasons. And because of those different values and the outcome in Luna, because of the survey, we formulated what activities we actually could fulfill with the CVPP in Luna. And based on the technical possibilities and the restraints, because we would use all the existing appliances in Luna, we could come up with a system design. And also based on the activities and the technical possibilities, we came up with several value propositions that we then, again, through a community session, gave back to the community and asked them collectively, would you like us to proceed in this way with these goals of the system? And by a huge applause, we went further and we came up with several activities. And André, if you could click to the next slide, then here there are the different system activities, or better to say the system goals. So the activities that the system in the end has to be able to fill. And those are 5 important things. First of all, the system in Luna, the CVPP system, it focuses on maximizing the self-consumption of local sustainable energy production. Next to that, by maximizing the balance between demand and supply, we are relieving the grid the electricity grid, the local grid, and therefore there are some potential compensation from the DSO could be gained, and therefore also some financial benefits for the community in Luna could be unlocked. Third of all, we want to make use of variable energy tariffs, which are based on spot prices. So first of all, give people the implicit incentive to make use or to actually use their electrical appliances when the prices are low enough, but also for the people that actually are using variable energy tariffs, that they can, based on the system, automate the function of their appliances based on lower prices. So it would be cheaper for them than in the current situation. Fourth is selling surplus generation. In Luna, there's an energy cooperative, and this CVPP also will fall under the direction of this energy cooperative. And we want to be able, if with the energy cooperative supplier, to be able to supply the surplus generation of local energy to the supplier. And second of all, if the Dutch transposition of the EU package, as discussed earlier, makes it possible, then we'd very much like to fulfill peer-to-peer energy trading activities. And as a fifth, we would like, as a community as a whole, provide future flexibility services for the grid operators. And what we immediately saw with these 5 activities and with the insights that we could provide to the community, the additional immediate benefit was that everybody was starting to look at their own energy usage and start to look into how they could save more energy. And if we then go to how the system looks like, and that will be the main slide I will tell before wrapping up in about 2 minutes, Sarah, is that whereas in Belgium, they mainly focus on gateways, we mainly focus on cloud connections with our systems. And there's a certain gateway that we use for the smart meter, which is called Ernie, whereas in Belgium, they use the Raspberry Pi. And from the Raspberry Pi, using the Wi-Fi network of the specific participant, we all send the data through the cloud in the Energy Next energy management system, which aggregates all the data from the smart meters, the heat pumps, the solar PV inverters, the electrical vehicles or charging point and storage systems which are available in Luna. There also in the cloud is the dynamic energy tariffs loaded in. There's a presentation of all the data for individual people, so on their individual level, and a community dashboard where everybody can see the aggregated consumption and production in Luna. And as last, we were able to use several algorithms and come up with several algorithms that every participant can select on their own, so on basis on what they find important, and then to automatically steer the NIBE and Mitsubishi heat pumps. Well, this slide deck will be sent to all the participants in this webinar. So I expect that all the user dashboards and the participant dashboards and the community dashboards all send in. And there, if you would like, you could take a further look on how we visualize all the information to consumers. But because of the current time constraint, I won't go much into detail about how we steer the heat pumps, etc. But if there are any questions, please feel free to ask us, and we're more than happy to explain that to you in another session or individually. And then I would like to give the word back to Andre, maybe to wrap up our presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry we got into time trouble. I was asked to also add a slide on our wishes and challenges. Of course, it would be great if in the future the energy cooperative can be their own energy supplier for the village. I think that's a legislative challenge, as you know. For example, things like peer-to-peer and we need a licensed supplier in the Netherlands. But that's one of the wishes we have. A solid prediction module, because then you can be more active in the market. It would be great if instead of depending on a commercial aggregator, we could create our own cooperative aggregator for the aggregation functions that would be sort of added to this type of system. And I think it would also be great if we could add something like benchmarking tools for energy use, or for example, the solar PV performance in the village. And because if you have a lot of different assets, you can sort of benchmark them to each other and at an early stage find out if something is not running properly. So in view of the time, I guess we have to leave it at this point.
Okay, thanks a lot, André. And actually, that brings me to our next speaker, Dirk. Happy to hear your wishes and the challenges. And Dirk will now touch upon some regulatory aspects. How are the member states dealing with this at the national level? Dirk, can you share your presentation with us? Yeah, thanks. Go ahead, Dirk.
Good morning, still good morning. I will now zoom in mainly to some countries, but with the biggest focus on how far we are in the Flemish region in Belgium. So I must get rid of this. Yeah. So how is the transposition going on in Belgium? So on the 30th of October, 2 weeks ago, the regional Flemish government has sent its draft decree to 3 advisory committees, and they have to deliver their advice by the end of the month. Then it will go to the Flemish regional parliament, and they will try to reach the deadline for both directives by the end of the year. The definitions for energy communities are in the same decree, the energy decree, and they are almost completely similar to the European directives. We'll go into the differences later. The most necessary elements, they are incorporated in the directives, but most things have to be explicited by the Minister of Energy or regulated by the regulator. For instance, the enabling framework for energy communities, so it's mentioned, but this has to be worked out by the administration, and then the minister will decide upon this. We see 3 issues in Flanders, in Belgium. The ownership of the installations is not well defined in the Flemish draft decree, which might allow pure financing of projects of third non-cooperative developers. This is an issue we encounter in Belgium, where all the big developers have created their own energy cooperative, which they control. And this might allow them to be defined as well as an energy community, which is not the case when you read the recitals of the directives. The energy communities must register at the regulator, VREG. We would love a stricter definition of their checking the statutes, the yearly accounts, the balance before accepting them. Also, this decision should be made public, not only the fact that they are accepted, so we can object on the basis of the evaluation. It seems possible with this draft decree that an energy community without citizens can be set up, although in the recitals to the same draft decree, it is stated that it is the aim that it's a vehicle for citizens and local authorities. So also what the member states have to do, so also the region of Flanders, they have to assess the existing barriers and potential for the development of energy communities. We had one meeting with the Flemish Energy Agency already a long time ago, and several stakeholders, some of them I brought along myself. Was this the assessment? I doubt it. So we think it's not done, but in the governmental agreement of 2019, it was foreseen that by the end of this year, that there would be an enabling framework in place that facilitates energy communities. But so far we haven't seen any texts or heard about this. So this enabling framework is actually the most important thing. The framework is now not designed. This will be done after an analysis made by the regulator of how energy communities can contribute to the grid stability, avoided costs, and remuneration of this. So we're still, yeah, we still don't know what will be in it, and so also the tariffs that will be used. So about when we zoom in on flexibility and innovative services. So I was able to have a look at the draft advice of two of these advisory committees. They decided to make an advice together. They are quite happy to notice that the draft decree already contains a few positive elements and choices. They appreciate how the decree looks for balance between different actors, so like market players and the public DSOs. And they're also positive that it allows communities to share not only electricity, but also heat and cooling. So this will foster integrated projects. It also is positive about that the draft decree approaches flexibility broadly and not only as demand response. And so not only comprise flexibility on consumption, but also flexible production, injection, and storage. They're also positive that the draft decree foresees a market-based framework for flexibility with a definition for a number of clear roles, service provider, participant, applicant, and so on, which offers opportunities for diverse actors and local initiatives who, through competition, can lead to the most cost-effective, efficient solutions. And it entrusts, they're also positive about that the draft decree entrusts the DSO, Fluvius, with the role of stage manager, and as well avoids that the DSO would disturb the market through direct participation in flexibility via energy storage infrastructure. So we were able to give our comments on their advice, and that's we are a member of the Flemish Federation. Rescoop Flanders is member of the umbrella organization, environmental umbrella organization, which is part of one of these advice committees. So we gave our comments on this as well. So for Flanders, concluding, Flanders will probably make it to the deadline by the end of this year for both directives. We were able, as energy cooperatives, we were able to give our input 3 times. The regulator did a stakeholder consultation. The administration did the same, and we talked to the cabinet of the Minister of Energy. So a lot of the details are left to the minister or the regulator to make it work. It will be sure that energy community will be able to take up a role in flexibility, but we don't know whether it will be interesting. What is really important is that energy sharing of renewable energy will be possible for members of energy communities of the energy, electricity, heat and cooling they produce with their common installation and which is put on the grid. And also collective acting self-consumers in an apartment building, giving inside the building, they will have the right to share the energy with each other if the installation is common property. And individual citizens or customers, they can't share the energy. They can engage in peer-to-peer sale and purchase. So this is separated from the other 2 actors. So now I will go shortly to Spain. So as a European federation, we are trying to follow up on the transposition in as many member states as possible. And to get the information, we have regularly advocacy work groups. So how is the transposition going on in Spain? So they already, in June, they already, in a royal decree, they copy-pasted the renewable energy community definition. And particularities of the energy communities should be taken into account so they can compete in public tenders and remuneration schemes. So it was in the royal decree and an implementation decree in November that this was written down. So they did this very early, but this was not a complete transposition. And about the complete transposition, there's a consultation process going on now. And this includes general aspects, the legal aspects, the barriers and opportunities, the enabling framework, and the evolved actors. So there's already some things written down. It's planned law. It's not binding yet. About the enabling framework, there will be several measures to foster energy communities. They will create a regulatory framework that defines such entities with figures such as cooperatives, association, technological parks, and so on. There will be pilot projects, training programs, and an office for energy communities. About flexibility and innovative services, the promotion of energy communities is also a measure for other goals. And so to our member, the people from Somalia, they said, well, it seems that they will use the energy communities to do something about energy demand and flexibility management, to do something about self-consumption, to inform and communicate measures with citizens. So it seems that, and that's also the impression I have in Flanders. I have the impression in Flanders that they think we can do something about energy poverty, for instance. So it seems governments might see energy communities as a tool to reach other goals. Then in France, they did a very early sort of transposition in 2019 already, but only about one concept, the renewable energy community. It was incomplete. It was focused on collective self-consumption. It's more or less what the Walloon region did as well. There was no references to citizen energy communities. So this will be corrected in a decree that will be issued still this year. This is the expectation. It will have the inclusion of the citizen energy community, but it will as well be sort of copy paste of the definition. And all, just like in Flanders, all complementary details, they have to be included in the decree. There's no news about the assessment of the existing barriers and about the enabling framework. It will be related to the reform of what energy communities now have. It's sort of participative bonus on the tariff. And one of the propositions of the Citizen Covenant on Climate, the minister announced a roadmap on citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities. The transposition in France will probably not make it in time. And then one last slide about Germany. Germany also in the discussions between the European Parliament and the member states and the European Commission, Germany was a very conservative factor, although they have a lot of community energy in Germany. It seems that the government, they have the idea that it is enough. So they won't transpose the definition, it seems, on community energy, citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities. They already have a definition, they say, of citizen energy companies. It was introduced a few years ago, and it does, according to us, not comply at all with the European directives. Collective self-consumption is not mentioned in any law at all. It requires the payment of the full EEG surcharge, whereas individual self-consumers have to pay either none or 40%, depending on the size and nature of the operator. And now an important amendment to the Renewable Energy Act is being debated in the Parliament, and it will be adopted by the end of the year. But the draft of the minister, it didn't include, as I said, any anything about the definitions for energy communities. So maybe the Parliament might introduce some changes, but the general impression I have of our movement in Germany is that they are quite depressed for the moment. So yeah, that was the presentation.
Thank you, Dirk, for giving some insights in some of the member states and their transposition processes. Now, I actually want to immediately start the discussion. We already saw there are some questions in the chat, and people also provided some reactions, giving some good examples. On a practical note, I would ask you to stay muted unless I give the word to you, otherwise it will become too messy. If you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand. And maybe to start with, because there were already some reactions in the chat. There was a question from who was it? Bram Kleis. Maybe Bram, if you're here, you can unmute yourself and ask your question again to our panelists. If you're still in the call, yeah, Bram, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. Yeah, I was basically trying to understand a bit better the revenue streams that can be derived from the flexibility services, either at the distribution level or at the system level for DSO versus DSO. What that could mean in practice, really, for the business model of the energy communities. And then additional to that, but I think related, is the comparison between energy communities delivering those services and the commercial aggregators that could do similar services. So any insights on that would be very appreciated.
Thanks, Bram, for your question. So question on more the financing aspects of it. Somebody from our panelists that want to take this question?
I can just provide some insights, but I've shared this with Bram already. The financing of these services is pretty unclear. Well, still a lot of regulation aspects have to be dealt with. One of the experience we've heard about is one of our FlexScope members and Rescope EU members, Energiezamen in Netherlands. They've done a project called GridFlex. In GridFlex, there is a solar park that is owned by a local community called Endona. And there are some residential batteries, and they are balancing the local grid, so there's as little as possible flow on the substation. So basically, less work for the DSO. The deal that they have with the DSO there is that they can recover part of the distribution fees on the tariff. So this represents a simple business model. It's quite constraining in terms of setup. You need to be under the same substation, and the pot of money is of course also limited to the grid fees, to the distribution grid fees. So it limits the overall picture, but it gives a feeling at least of what kind of value can be driven. Though I have another insight that is maybe André or Luc can tell more about this. I know within the CVPP project, the discussion with the DSO was quite hard, and they were not showing very short-term willingness to implement any innovative services. The answer was more like the usual way to proceed and to strengthen the local network rather than implement flexibility services.
Maybe I can say a few words. I know the project GridFlex as well. I know Endona and the people there. Basically, that's more like a microgrid type of setup. It's not VPP, but more microgrid, because it's all behind one. They sort of made this substation as a one single point of entry. So it's a bit difficult to compare that to VPP. With respect to the services, I think at the TSO level, it's a well-developed market. There's really the size is known, the money streams are known. At the DSO level, that's not the case. That's sort of developing, at least in the Netherlands. It's developing. They are setting up even a platform for trade, things like that. But yeah, that we will have to find out how that will work out exactly. Lunen has been put into a research program of the DSOs of the Netherlands to be a living lab for testing out flexibility services. So you can say we're still a bit early. It's still a bit difficult to say what the exact the financial consequences will be, because we're still finding out altogether what can be done and how beneficial things can be.
Yeah, maybe for part of our experience, a little bit the same as in Holland, the flexibility market at DSO level, yeah, they're trying to give shape to it now for the moment, but we don't have a real good view of how it will look like and whether business models can be organized upon it. But what is the big difference between local energy communities or RESCOPs or the existing aggregators? I think the problems that of the flexibility market that will be organized at the DSO level will be very local. So a local actor might be able to provide better solutions than the national aggregators. And also, yeah, do we want to organize this local flexibility markets, or do we want to have the national aggregators monopolizing all this part of the market as well? We want to have local control. We want to, as local energy communities, have some control about the local market. So we should try to play our role at least at this level. As well, a little bit the same as Lunen, we're talking now from RESCOP VPP, from the Belgium pilot that we're organizing with Elia, the Belgium TSO, to see whether we can enter in a kind of living lab or in a kind of test phase to see which residential flexibility we can organize towards the TSO. So this, the next coming weeks, we will have a clearer view of it, whether we will enter in this program IO Energy 2.0 that will be organized next year. So there, yeah, we might learn more of about the opportunities that would be able to be organized at that level.
Thanks, Luc. Maybe one last question regarding last comment regarding this question, maybe from the audience, or I saw also Dirk said something in the chat. Dirk?
Yes, it's not really related to flexibility, but maybe it's interesting because it can bring us some ideas. Is that yesterday the assistant, I don't know his real title, of Commissioner Timmermans, Diederik Samson, he said in the Hier Opgewekt event, where I was also a panelist, that for him it seems evident that if members of an energy community share energy, they produce together, that it would be without VAT. In Belgium, it's 21%. This is a lot. That's a big difference, I suppose. Huh? So, and I agree with Anna. Maybe we should not wait until they come up with an enabling framework. Maybe we must design it ourselves and propose it to the different regions in Belgium, to the different countries. So we should tell them what we want, and that's up to our regional and member state federations to do this.
Okay, thank you, Dirk. Is there anybody that wants to raise a question? Otherwise, I'll take one from the chat. I don't know, is Sarah Golesi still in the call, in the webinar? She had a question, I will repeat it. She wanted to know if there's people aware of specific platforms that can actually simulate the functioning of an energy community before you really implement it. Is there a way, is there a tool to see how it will work? Maybe some of the speakers.
University of Twente has a tool for that. I don't know it. I don't know the name, but they have made a what they call an energy generation or simulation tool. But yeah, they have something which sounds like what she's looking for.
I've heard about a couple of projects also, but it depends. Well, nothing close to what she was mentioning as a serious game that could help really people on the ground to build up their self-consumption setup or collective self-consumption setup. But I've seen some calls or projects related to Horizon 2020 calls. There was Y, in which Rescue members Goyaner is involved, and which includes the Renewable Grid Initiative. So they are building tools at different scales up to the level of retailers and communities. So this is definitely relevant. Then there are other things. Sentinel, sorry, is also one of these projects, but I think it's more at a policy level and at the overall system level. We'll have to dig further, but I think in the same call there should be a different project on this aspect.
Okay, thanks, Roland. Are there other speakers that want to add something? Or maybe somebody from the audience that has a good example? Dirk is suggesting Chris Merveille to say something on this. Is Chris still in the call?
I see
Hi.
Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clearly.
I was a little bit caught off guard. So can you repeat the question, please?
Dirk wanted some insights. Suggested that you could give some examples of how
that was in relation to the project Y. Would this could help energy communities design their collective self-consumption schemes, for example, or local arrangements to consume local energy, to store or to perform any of these innovative services we've mentioned today?
Yes, I read the question earlier. Let's say that the objective of the Y project is not immediately on that level, but it would be possible. I mean, the tool that we will develop within the Y project should be able to go down to, I would say, almost building level, to be able to model energy demand and behavior. So yes, we are still in the definition phase of Y, because we've only just started 2 months ago. So we're definitely not able to show results now on, you know, what the person asked was whether we can demonstrate what the effect is of RESCOPs or energy community. Sorry, we're not there yet, but it should be possible towards the final stages of the project. Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Something to be following up the Y project. I see there was another question now in the chat from Dimitris Kitsikopoulos, if I'm saying that correctly. You are interested to learn more about the comparison between commercial aggregators and energy communities.
Yes, actually.
We cannot hear you properly, Dimitris.
Hello?
No, but maybe you can mute yourself again, and some of the panelists can take your question. It's in the chat, and can try to give some answers.
Well, I can try to bring our perspective on this. As I said, there are specific activities and there are energy communities. One is organizational, more a system-related activity. If we're talking about in terms of commercial actors, I think most energy communities will have a hard time to bring up their own tools and to get the professional level to deliver complex services. So as also it was presented by Anna, using the USEF framework or environment, commercial aggregators can really help energy communities to sell their flexibility. I think on the risk of VPP, this is part of the vision that we can support energy communities gathering their community and calculating their own flexibility and making it simpler so it can be then used by an aggregator. So there are different middle grounds in which these two entities can meet, and I think these two services can be made very very complementary. I don't know if this was your question, Dimitris.
Maybe I can add that indeed that the community aggregator is really serving communities. I don't know to what extent the current commercial aggregators are independent, but it is in the winter package, in the community energy, clean energy for all package, that it is necessary to develop an independent aggregator as an intermediary, which maybe suggests that they are right now not terribly independent. So they are maybe serving the purposes of the grid operators, and they did not maybe think about the community aspect. And plus, indeed, the issue of professionalizations. I mean, to play a role of an aggregator, the community really has to be having the skills and the possibilities. And that's very often, yeah, not the case, because the communities do not have these skills in-house.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Are there more questions or remarks from the audience? I see somebody putting something in the chat. Maybe you can, Neil, you can unmute yourself and give your insight or ask your question.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'll put on my video as well. It's really fantastic to be joining you today. Sorry I couldn't join earlier. We had a family emergency. This is the first time I've spoken to the Rescoop family. I have been following your wonderful exploits over a couple of years and read your literature. It's been a source of inspiration for myself and our community in Linlithgow, and well done, you know, keep up the fantastic work. Obviously with the UK coming out of the European Union, it's terribly sad for me, but I hope that we will remain connected. I work as a professional with Warmworks Scotland. It's a national managing agent that was set up to support the Scottish Government's Warmer Homes Scotland grant, and we're doing some great work to try and help the most vulnerable people in Scotland to come out of fuel poverty. At the same time, I also volunteer for my local community development trust, and we set up a social enterprise on solar energy with a few local sports clubs, and we are really keen to scale up. But unfortunately, the big deficit for us, and it might be the same for you guys across Europe, is that we don't have a community feed-in tariff anymore. They made the crazy decision to stop it, and it's really hurting communities. We don't have enough, despite the massive efforts of the Scottish Government and everything it does in terms of the CARES grant and so on and so forth. We don't have enough secure revenue and also development funding to employ people to actually create the opportunities at a local level, to systematically through each community develop localized systems to employ local people, and also help the other efforts in terms of, you know, tackling fuel poverty, which is going to get worse through the pandemic, through the end of furlough and, you know, this new lockdown that we're in as well. And I'm sure that's the same for many countries. So I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do collectively to petition the politicians to see if we can reintroduce that community feed-in tariff, or energy booster as I'm calling it, we are talking to our own MP and hopefully MSPs in Scotland, and perhaps that will then go over to European MEPs to try and get some sort of incentive back in, say for 10 years, 15 years, so that we have something secure and solid that we can rely on to help us develop local community energy systems. I just wondered if there was anything that you were talking about, or anything in the pipeline that might help.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil, for your contribution. Maybe somebody of our panelists wants to immediately react. Maybe Dirk, you want to give a short reaction?
Yeah, let's say that what the enabling framework is concerned, Scotland has always been our shining example. But of course, if you don't have revenues, it's an enabling framework is nice to have, but it doesn't bring any revenues. Huh? So yes, actually, for us in the EU and maybe also in the UK, the transposition should give us energy communities a part, a share of the energy market. So the member states should make room for us, and so this also means that you must have enough revenues. But indeed, when fighting energy poverty, if we could take up this task, which is not the easiest task, of course, this might be a role that makes it easier for politicians to give us this space. It's something other suppliers they won't take up easily, I think. Yeah.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, maybe a last comment, Anna, because unfortunately we need to wrap up. Yeah. Go ahead.
But, so I think the situation is similar to what's in Ireland as well. Our colleagues in Ireland who are also developing CVPP, I think the way they went about it is simply they became suppliers to themselves. And in the meantime, they simply lobby hard and they tell the government what should be done according to them, rather than waiting until things simply happen by themselves. So good luck.
Okay, thank you, Anna. And unfortunately, we're at the end of our webinar. It was very interesting. I see some more people are putting questions and remarks in the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out to us after this webinar as well. Maybe, Roland, you can still share our contact details. Anyways, we will keep in touch. We will send you a follow-up email with the recording and the presentations. And then, of course, you can reach out to us for more information. As I said in the beginning, for Rescue PU, this webinar is only a starting point. So we are actually planning to organize more webinars to deepen some of the topics that were already discussed today, and to keep the discussion alive, and to see, how we can, fight for our space in the energy market. So I would like to thank you very much for attending this webinar, also for joining the discussion, and let's keep in touch. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.